Welcome to the OtherWorldsGG Community Cast. This is episode number 26. I am Table for Two, also known as Hunter, and joining me today is Mellified and Alien Pickle. How you guys doing today?
This is Mellified. I am doing delightfully well. It is a long weekend when we're recording this, 4th of July. Happy birthday, America, I guess.
America.
Well, I guess, because it's also my wife's birthday, so we are going to be celebrating her
She's
birth.
just not as old though, right?
Yeah, and for the rest of the world, that's when we barbecue and we all like have a community gun cleaning.
Yes. I was, one of my favorite things about moving to Texas is I've lived in more rural areas in counties where they do not ban fireworks. So I've actually had a pretty decent fireworks show in my backyard a few years.
Well, unless there's the drought, and then like you can't burn anything.
Well, true.
Because I was down there. I went back down to Texas for my buddy's wedding, and we were doing like backyard. Like this guy was like barbecuing brisket and stuff like that, as you do in Texas. And I was like, we were smoking cigars, but like the guy was like, "Can you guys make sure to smoke those like over on the concrete, because it's so dry right now. Like a spark of this will light this place ablaze." So
well, it's been raining for a week straight here, so we're actually in pretty good shape, at least in the short term. And overall, the drought broke. We haven't had the really really bad droughts lately, but yeah. So I love this time of year. It's always a lot of fun, and I have a week off work next week, so I'm looking forward to doing some power gaming. That's for sure.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing some power gaming as well this weekend because I have Monday off. And my landlord actually came by yesterday, and we did a little walkthrough down here. And sure enough, like we've come up with a game plan because he realized that there was a few spots that he was really unaware of because he hasn't really taken a full inventory down here of some places where some of the critters had been getting in. But I've so like doused the foundation in like bug poisons and stuff like that I've gotten it under control down here, and I've plugged up some of the holes myself. But yeah, he's coming in the next couple of weeks, and he's got like a crew, and they're just gonna like seal this place up tight. So
nice. It's interesting. We transitioned from prairie fires to reasons to have ours.
Right, that's right. That's right. Well, but so
Alien Pickle, also known as Jim, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm just glad that I'm no longer fighting the spider wars. Hunter can have that.
Yeah. My bug guy came yesterday. We have somebody come every month. In the summer, it gets really bad here if you don't stay on top of it.
Yeah,
the bug.
So well, and just I mean, I live out here farm field, so I mean it's inevitable. You're in the country, like it's a thing with living out here. But I'm just like, well, I shouldn't be like sitting on a couch, like, drinking beers with the guys. Like, I'd rather, one occasionally here and there is fine. But yeah, but thankfully though, I have it under control right now.
What I'm hearing is that you're prejudiced against spider people.
Hell yes, I am. Yeah. Yes, of course. But anyway, no, it's awesome.
I saw an interesting thing though. It was like an internet thing, so it may be true. But apparently, like bigger spiders, like tarantulas and stuff, they keep little pet frogs. Like it's like these little mini frogs, and they keep them in their burrow because there's insects that are too small for the spider to catch. So it keeps a little pet frog to eat them so that they don't eat the spider's stuff.
I don't know if I believe that. I'm sorry.
I don't know, but it's kind of cool to think that spiders have pet frogs. It's like, well, okay, they might be all right.
That's funny. Oh man, that's funny. Well, I kind of wanted to hit things off right off the bat and let everybody know that we have started our own official Battlefield 4 server. There is an official Battlefield 4 server out there. We are anticipating 2042 coming in the next 3 months, and so we have a server for Battlefield 4 for the next 3 months, hoping that 2042 is going to be good. And if it is, we're going to switch over to that sucker, and we're going to run a 2042 server more than likely. But yeah, OtherWorlds.GG is the server. So if you're out there, or if you come to our Discord, there's links to all the things in our Discord. So if you discord.otherworlds.gg will get you basically all the information that you want to know. And on top of that, we're still running our giveaway, which I'll plug again at the end of the show. You know, if we get 100 for 100, so 100 people on our Discord, we're going to do $100 giveaway. So I mean, we're gonna give money. All right. So
take our money.
So we want to give it to you.
If we get 100 people in the Battlefield server, I will pay $1,000.
Sadly, that is not very likely because it only supports 64. But with Battlefield 2042, we're actually getting 128.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Well, and so this actually is one of our news stories. They have said, the developers have said that Battlefield 2042 will be able to run up to 64 AI bots in multiplayer matches.
There you go, Jim.
They're full.
There it is.
There it is. Because we were talking about that. We were talking about, like, why can't we have bots? And that's the thing that 21... okay, so when Battlefield first came out, 1942, back in the day, you know, in the before time, the game had bots. So you could play 1942. God dang. You could play 1942... with bots, so like you didn't actually have to play with people. And Battlefield 2 had the same thing, and of course, as I kept speaking, 2142 also had bots. So it's interesting that I think the bot mechanic
somewhere.
Yeah. Well, in a world of moving towards online services, games as a service, they've done away with the bot mechanic, and I think that's a crying shame because I think bots add just a level of fun to help keep games going for some folks, you know. And maybe you don't have the greatest of internet connections or something like that. Bots can really turn things around for folks. So the fact that they're actually doing, you know, you could essentially play a 64-man server now with bots with the new game coming out. That's going to be awesome. So yeah. I'm really excited for that.
It doesn't take... I mean, you think about what the computer is doing to play a game, and if you're not rendering the graphics, I gotta think it's very, very low amount of work to run the AI, around the map and shoot at people. So it is surprising to me, but I suspect it's probably because the previous gen consoles just were so CPU limited that they didn't have a way to do it on consoles. But
sure. Well,
I'm thrilled it's coming back.
Well, yeah, and speaking of legacy technology, right, and legacy stuff that, you know, sometimes you think legacy, but it was just like, well, it was good for a reason. Why do we get rid of it? I think that it's awesome that with Halo, for example, with the Master Chief Collection, with Halo Combat Evolved, they're adding in mod tools on Steam. So you can actually get, not just on Steam, they're adding the mod tools in general, but you'll be able to also get them through the Steam version as well. And so you can actually have mod tools. So that whole, like, custom edition, right, that they're doing from back in the day, they're kind of bringing that back. And so... really modding and customizations and giving your player base the tools to have more fun with your game is such a huge part. It keeps these games alive. I mean, we've just come across the 20th anniversary of Halo, right? Like, Halo was 20 years old, I think last year it was. And, you know, here we are. And, you know, here Halo still is. I think that's amazing. And Halo could potentially get even bigger with player counts with up to potentially 60 players, which is like massively unheard of in a Halo game. So that's pretty astounding.
I was assuming that this was coming from the work that 343 Studios is presumably doing for Halo Infinite, where, you know, they've tried to build sort of a common engine for all these Halo games. And so I'm assuming that, you know, they're going to be supporting 60 players in Infinite, and that's why they can backport it to MCC. But I mean, that's going to need those modding tools because those maps do not scale to 60 players. Like, you're going to need a much bigger Blood Gulch.
I mean, I was about to say, could you imagine 60 people on Blood Gulch? That'd be insane. It'd just be a sea of players.
Yeah. So basically, Halo, Battlefield 4.
Right.
Like the combo. That's kind of what I would like to see. Is
bring it.
Yeah. Like let's just do like a big open map Halo thing with like 5 to 7 points to capture and hold kind of deal. That would be kind of neat. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for it. Just some of these things are. I mean, it just feels so good to hear these stories. I mean, I'm really hoping 2042 is good, and I try to avoid the hype train. I really do, but I don't know. Like, I've been having so much fun playing Battlefield 4 again because I cannot stand Battlefield 5. I cannot stand Battlefield 1. Like, they just did some weird things with those games that just do not do it.
It's just got a weird feel. It's the game's got a completely different smell to it.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but it really just does not feel at all. Yeah,
the same. Yeah, so I think and for the for what it's worth, the Battlefield 4 stuff is just making waves. People are so excited for it. Like, servers are filling up. So we got our server, and then it instantly, like, when we started getting more people in it, like we started with our small little community. We had maybe like 10 people in there. And then more and more people started filling up. And then for like hours straight, we had queues going on our server. It just fills up so quickly. So it just kind of shows a lot of people are playing.
So that brings up something. Maybe I can put a bow on the things that we've talked about here. So the deal with Battlefield 4 and bots and the servers and the queues and such, right? So whenever you look at the list of servers, you'll see there's like 5 to 10 servers at the top. There you got 64 people in them, 20 people a server sitting in a queue waiting to get in, right? And then you look down the rest of the list and you see a bunch of servers that also have great pings, 64 players, dead empty, like nobody sees them. And the reason why, I went in, I set my filters to default, they don't show up, because the filters by default are like, show me servers that only have up to 10 slots free, right? So if there's more than 10 slots free, it just filters them out. You don't see them. Well, you got a 64 player server and there's 10, 15 people on it. Well, you got way more than 10 slots free, so you don't even show up in the list by default, right? So you have to go in there and screw with the filters or you're just never going to see it. So everybody that doesn't do that ends up piling on the only servers that actually show up in the list, which you get these giant queues. So the cure for that also, the problem is, why would I get on a server that's only got 2 people? Because I'll be the third. You can't start a game till the 4th. How long am I going to sit here? I'll just get in the queue for the one, right? It's fine. But if you had bots, then you could get in a server that's only got one other person, and you get on opposite teams, and it's bots fighting bots, but the humans are in the mix, right? And if they're competent bots, it doesn't matter, because I've played in multiplayer games that had bots that I couldn't tell weren't people. So yeah, you could do that. That way the server is always at a playable state, right? Even if you're solo and you drop in. Like Angels Fall First comes immediately.
God, dude, that's a shame too, because that's such a great game.
Yeah, which it is sci-fi Battlefield, basically, and with space combat. It's kind of Battlefront Battlefield, kind of weird hybrid, but I like that game. But there's never any population on there, but it doesn't really matter because you can just
play as bots.
Friend. Yeah.
And the bots piss me off because they're pretty good, so. Yeah, or maybe I'm just that bad at it. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say it's interesting, too, because there is sort of a general trend. I noticed in our news down a little bit later, I had noted a story about Team Fortress 2 also has hit an all-time concurrent player peak.
That's insane. Wow.
I mean, I don't know what's going on. If everybody's just kind of like, man, I want to go back and play some meaty multiplayer, or what?
Was it 2005 or 2006 that came out? Because
the original had to be,
That's because that's like 15 years ago. I mean, that's pretty.
Well, and I think, to be fair,
Good
they
for
are
them.
still updating the game. They had just done an update. They have a summer 2021 cosmetics pack that you can earn in the game. So there is like
Gnarly.
something to pull you back, but
Well, speaking,
hats.
hats. Well, speaking of games getting updates and games that have been around for a while, Star Wars: The Old Republic is getting a new expansion and to celebrate its 10th anniversary, Legacy of the Sith.
And this is a legit. This is a. Just to be clear, this is a developer-made expansion, not the Bespin Cloud City player-made expansion, right?
No.
Different game.
No. You're thinking about a different game. So the Bespin Cloud City thing was for Star Wars Galaxies, which is a dead MMO that players made an expansion for. This is
not as dead as Disney wishes it was.
Right, exactly.
Well,
yeah. But the Old Republic is still alive and kicking from BioWare, that they're putting out this new expansion for Legacy of the Sith for its 10th anniversary. And, you know, that's a game that's had its ups and downs, right? Like, when it first launched, it was pretty interesting, because I remember playing the beta with that. I went to the launch event with the BioWare developers. That was a lot of fun, right? And then it was just like, wow, this game, it has a problem. It's a really good MMO, but the single-player elements get in the way. It's a really good single-player game, but the MMO elements get in the way. And it was just kind of like it didn't fully know how to balance itself until years later, when they finally did it to where you can play the full thing as a single-player game in a multiplayer like environment. So they've pretty much made it to where you don't have to team up anymore if you don't want to, but there's added bonuses if you do. So it's like
what game is this? Warcraft?
This is the Old Republic, Star Wars: The Old Republic. I actually really like this game. Right, I actually really like this game, in my opinion. I've actually really enjoyed it over the years, because it has gotten better. They have improved it. They have added a lot of really cool things to it.
So wait, there was content that you had to team up before?
Yeah, because they
never saw that.
Yeah, well, some of their, what do they call them? They're like
flashpoints.
Yeah. The flashpoint stuff almost required you to do it, but some of the flashpoints were also considered part of like the storyline stuff. It's like you had to do some of the flashpoints in order to advance the story, or in some cases, but now you don't have to do that. So what they do now is they actually will drop in a bot, like a robot, that'll like be your companion through the flashpoint to like help you, and then you'll have your normal companion. So it's like 3 of you in there as doing this thing, and you're just like commanding your people to do. So it's very much like a single player game. So you can play through everything solo now without having to be bothered by the MMO, side of things. So
now there is only one of them. This is getting out of hand.
That's right. So anyway, moving on. Good for them.
Well, so maybe this is a careful what you wish for moment, but the Machine Games team is busy doing Indiana Jones, which means they can't work on Wolfenstein 3, although they do want to go back to the Wolfenstein universe. So,
well, hold on a second. Wolfenstein 3, I thought... I'm confused on those numbers. How does that work?
Okay. The next Wolfenstein maybe is a better choice, but technically, the games where the first one was the reboot, Wolfenstein. Then they had the Colossus. Then they had the side thing with his kids, where it was the forced co-op game.
Yeah.
That's 2.5, I guess, and then somebody, depending on how you want to number these things. But
well, man, I'm trying to. Okay, so I'm trying to find my launcher here so I could take a look at some of this stuff, but I can't seem to find it right now. But yeah, because there was the how many Wolfenstein games have they made like in total?
Ooh, well, going back, you had Wolfenstein, Castle Wolfenstein, Return to Castle Wolfenstein in the 80s, which then inspired Wolfenstein 3D in the 90s. Then you had Spear of Destiny, which was the sequel to Wolf 3D. Then there was the Return to Castle Wolfenstein reboot in early 2000, which I think just had the one game. And then you had the modern reboot, which spawned...
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
You're missing one.
So there's Enemy Territory Wolfenstein,
right,
which was the multiplayer.
Yes, which was the game that's the reason that Battlefield 1942 exists,
Mm.
which is the reason that everything that we just talked about exists. So,
yeah.
so
Fair enough.
okay.
I was thinking single player.
So then you're right. So then they did Wolfenstein 2009. Then, which I don't know what that's all about. Apparently it's a loose sequel to Return to Castle Wolfenstein. And then they had Wolfenstein: The New Order.
That one. No.
Then they had Wolfenstein: The New Order. Then they had Wolfenstein: The Old Blood. Then they had Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. Then they had Wolfenstein Young Blood, which was the forced co-op one. And then they had, of course, the VR cyber pilot
the VR
thing.
one. Yep.
So this is supposed to be an actual full-on sequel, not some weird side expansion thing.
Right. Because Old Blood was a weird expansion-y thing for the original. So I guess that's why Wolfenstein 3. Doesn't really matter. Point is, the Machine Games team is busy working on the Indiana Jones game that's in development from Bethesda. So, I'm excited for the Indiana Jones game if it's good. I think Machine Games is going to be a really interesting sort of choice for that, given, all the work they've done in Wolfenstein, very fast-paced, and that's not what I necessarily think of for an Indiana Jones game, but maybe they'll get to stretch their muscles a little bit there.
Yeah, and they can reuse those Nazi models.
That's true. Yeah. You're right. They have plenty of Nazi stuff already done.
No, maybe it'll be Indiana Jones, like a multiplayer Battlefront kind of game, but you're fighting the Crystal Skull aliens.
Oh, Jesus.
It'll be like
there are only
I'm out. I'm gone. Bye.
And the giant
pickle, dude. There are only 3 Indiana Jones movies. We've discussed this.
No. The Crystal Skull aliens come back, and they have made Shia LaBeouf's ant swarm, giant ants.
No,
and then it
turns into EDF. I was about to say EDF. Yeah. No, man. Look. That Crystal Skull thing was just a fan film. It doesn't count. It's just like this. It's like
if you need me.
It's just like the Star Wars. It's like the Star Wars Disney films. Those are all fan films. It doesn't count.
No, there are only 3 Star Wars movies. The rest are fan fiction.
If it was not, that's true. If it was not for Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull aliens, we would not have Nuketown 24/7 servers.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
All right. Moving on.
Thank you. You opened those can of worms, Mellified. Thank you.
I did.
All right, moving on.
That was my fault.
I'm just here to stir the worms. That's all.
Oh my god. We need a remote mute for Jim, I think.
And Jim's like, toil and trouble.
Oh, Jesus.
One of those shock collars with a button.
Yes.
Yeah. Keep it up, I'll wrap it around your nuts. All right.
Hey, man, whatever you're into. What happens in Texas?
This is moving on. Whoa.
You're going to have to do some editing, I think.
Oh, my God. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Let it be. Hey, speaking of let it go. So we have a Hurricane Elsa now. I think.
Oh, my God. So, hey, did you see the whole Doom Eternal stuff for the PlayStation?
No.
This is an interesting one for sure. So, Doom Eternal got a next-gen upgrade, which is fantastic, and they actually backported some of those graphical features even to the PC, which is always nice to see. There's a problem. There's a quirk, I maybe is the way to say it, on the PS5, though. The game, Doom Eternal, has no way to import your PS4 save.
Yeah.
So you get to start over, right? This is such a great game. You're going to want to start over, right?
So much fun. Well, I mean, considering all of like the Doom Eternal development stuff that's been going on, that might be like hard for people because they're working on continuing development with refocusing on single player horde mode. The invasion plan stuff that they're doing. So, I mean, it could be kind of like hard for folks who have put in a lot of effort into it. Like maybe they don't want to start over on a new console. That kind of would suck.
I would think that's totally reasonable, and it's really disappointing. And while I wish Bethesda had done the work to solve this problem, it is a problem created by Sony not providing a way to do this at the system level.
Well, if it was Activision, then it would be paid character transfers.
Yeah,
Yikes.
well,
$35 to copy your save game over.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's strictly the single player save. I suspect your multiplayer progression may carry over. I don't know, but even so, like, it's just really crappy that Sony left it up to the developers to do all the heavy lifting on this one, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
I wish, like I said, I wish Bethesda would have done that heavy lifting, but I can't necessarily fault them for expecting the system to handle, cross-gen saves. Like that seems like a thing the system should do to me. So
what game are we talking about again?
Doom Eternal.
Doom Eternal. Jim hasn't had his coffee yet. Sorry.
No, it's just I do this in other people's podcasts too, right? Like I'll be listening to Giant Bomb or whatever, and then they're in the middle of this heated discussion about, and I'm like, wait, what game are you talking about again?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, speaking
of AD&D.
Oh my god! So speaking of games and stuff that I don't think really anybody asked for, Vin Diesel has given an update on Riddick 4 and a potential new Riddick game. Now, while Escape from Butcher Bay was actually a pretty decent game, in my opinion, it actually wasn't that bad. I don't know. I think Vin Diesel has just been doing a lot of milking of the intellectual properties he's involved with. I thought the Riddick trilogy was good, but they kind of just kept it going. And of course, the naming convention of these things is so weird because they've already had a fourth Riddick movie. They just called it Riddick. And, now they're getting ready to do Riddick 4, and it's just like, wait, what? Where does... all right. If Fast and Furious is just no end in sight.
That should be like Fast 10, no end in sight. The name of the movie.
Well, and at least the story I remember hearing back when was that Vin Diesel agreed to do Fast and the Furious if they made Riddick. Like that was his bargaining chip because he really wanted to make a sci-fi, thriller. And it's sort of his baby. So I mean, I'm
don't get me wrong.
It's cool that he's got a passion project.
I enjoyed Riddick. I loved the Necromonger thing that they did. I thought that was a fun movie. You keep what you kill.
Essentially, that was Quake the movie.
Right. It kind of was in a lot of ways. That's how I felt about it. And even his Riddick movie that he did after all that wasn't that terrible either, but I kind of felt like it was like the first Riddick movie all over again, Pitch Black.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, let's move on because we've got a ton of other stories to get through, and I'm sure we could debate the cinematic excellence of Vin Diesel all day.
Well, the only thing that I want out of Vin Diesel, and this is the reason I brought up AD&D, is I want a game where it's like Vin Diesel is the dungeon master. He narrates through the adventure, right? And it's like Tiny Tina's Keep of whatever in Borderlands, except it's Vin Diesel's whatever.
That would be interesting. It's kind of like Demio, but with Vin Diesel as the narrator.
Yeah, totally.
All right, what else we got here?
All right. CD Projekt Red is satisfied with the stability and performance of Cyberpunk 2077. This is an interesting comment.
What?
Because, so apparently, when the game was relisted on the PlayStation Store, it carries the note that it is not recommended for base PS4 models.
No, really?
It's not finished either.
Well,
probably never will be.
I have not played it. I really was excited about this game, and I decided to wait for the presumptive definitive edition, which is supposed to be coming out sometime soon, along with the next gen optimized version of the game. So, I guess we're still waiting for that. I don't know.
Well, how are they going to get it done when like everybody that was in the top tier of development for that thing has moved to another project or another company? Or
that is a very good question. Yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm a little skeptical if it's going to even happen. But fingers crossed.
All they had to do was just make Cyber GTA, and they tried to do too much. Yeah.
Well, I a new horror game from Bokeh. Bokeh? Is that how you say that? It's a photography term.
Yes.
Game studio wants to mess with your mind. I read that headline, and the first thing that came to mind was Eternal Darkness. Do you guys remember that from the GameCube?
Oh yeah! Wow.
Where it like you'd walk into a room and your character suddenly couldn't move and would start screaming, and like his arms would explode, and then he'd die, and then like you'd be like, "What the fuck just happened? Oh my god!" And then it would flash back, and it was like the game was messing with you as you played. It was breaking the fourth wall. It would randomly show like a blue screen, like the old Windows crash prompt, when you walked into a room and made
On
you
a
think
GameCube?
Yeah, on a GameCube, which made you think it had crashed. Was the idea? It was a very, very neat game in that it subverted your expectations of what a horror game could do.
Well, it's
And
shocking to me that it happened on a Nintendo console
yeah,
without green blood and whatnot. So yeah.
yeah, it was the first M-rated game that Nintendo published back, ever. So I mean, one of the classics for sure. A really great game to go revisit if you get an opportunity. But I'll be interested to see if these guys can pull off something that manages to mess with you in the way that game did.
That's like shades of Psycho Manus in the original Metal Gear,
Mhm.
where you had to like move the controller.
Yep, with the rumble.
Yes. That's how I knew my wife was legit, by the way, is she borrowed my Metal Gear game. That was like when we hadn't even started dating yet. She was just a friend of my sister. And she came over to like borrow Metal Gear for her nephews. They didn't like it, but she beat the thing, and she came back like 3 days later and was like, "Oh, here's this back." And I'm like, "Didn't dig it?" She's like, "No, I beat it." And I'm like, "You're bullshitting." I was like, "Okay, so tell me about Psycho Manus." And she's like, "Yeah, that was kind of jacked up. Like I had to look online to figure out you had to move the joystick." And I was like, "Oh, she's real." And then we got married.
Right there, you walked out into the
Knee hit the ground, and I put CD on her finger like a
yep.
And then she's been nagging him ever since.
So, well.
And then gaming got twice as expensive because she
I was just saying.
Yeah, well,
I'm a gamer.
I've often wondered that about Mellified.
She's the only RTX card in the house, in fact. How did that happen? So she can play Minecraft with
all
shaders.
The pretty.
Yeah, and it's like, I just put shaders on whatever.
Well, I've often wondered that about Mellified. You have kids, and then all of a sudden your gaming budget like quadruples.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
because you got to buy one for everybody.
We did well, and certainly people don't do that and get by, but I didn't want to do that because I actually really enjoy playing games with the kids. That's actually for a couple years I was working out of state, and so I was gone for 2 months at a time, and that was the way we stayed in touch. Was we played games together on the weekends. So yeah, I feel really passionately about kids having access to games and having their own game systems and stuff. It's been really neat to see, actually. My kids all have very different gaming tastes, and so I find it sort of fascinating. But at any rate,
yeah, moving right along. We have a couple of interesting stories here. So that George R.R. Martin stuff that he's been working on for Elden Ring, apparently all that work was done years ago already. So
yeah, I get the impression he wrote the story and then they just sort of grabbed it and made it into a game rather than him actually sitting down to write it for the game, which is sort of interesting.
So what is Elden Ring? Is it like take a Souls game and then also make it open world like Breath of the Wild?
That is my impression, yes. I haven't followed it super close, but that is my feeling from
right. So George R.R. Martin could write like a little bit of world treatment and then like one good monologue for an evil wizard and then just be like, all right, I'm done. That's cool. Right? Because how much do you need? Do the bosses like monologue you for 15 minutes before you kill them?
Martin was helping with Elden Ring's overarching mythos and game world.
Okay.
Is the comment from Eurogamer's article.
Yeah, which world building is a hell of a lot different than storytelling.
Yes.
Because world building is not that hard. So,
Yeah, you get the big ideas, basically. Yeah.
Also,
so
unless he did it like Tolkien, where he like actually wrote real languages for all the, and he didn't do that.
He did not. I'm guaranteeing you. I will. Yeah.
I would just be happy for a Game of Thrones game that was in an open world kind of thing. Like, give me Skyrim in that world, and we're good. I'm cool with it.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a couple of other releases coming up. Persona, bit of gaming release news. Persona 4 Golden sold 1 million units on Steam, which is a pretty big deal. That has to be one of the better Persona games until 5 Royale came out.
Oh, really? So if I don't like that one, I'm not going to like any of them. Just stay away. Because I don't like that one. Okay.
They are all like that. It's like a Japanese, life management simulator combined with, the turn-based demon combat. Ghost of Tsushima is getting a director's cut in August, which will be a next-gen upgrade as well, with some new content. And this is sort of anti-release news, I guess. Mortal Kombat 11 is done. The team is moving on to their next project. There won't be any more DLC for it. So
good.
A little bit sad, but
so much like Cyberpunk, years after it came out, it's finally done.
I'm glad they're done with it. Honestly, I'm ready for it to move on.
Yeah, but they're going to 11 or they're going to 12. So they're just done with 11.
They are probably working on Injustice 3, although that might be up in the air with the WB Games breakup, because they're splitting up WB Games into two companies and selling part of it. So I don't know.
Is that part of the congressional antitrust hearings?
No, they sold part of
WB.
They sold part of WB and HBO to Discovery, and we talked about this, Scotch, a couple months ago on the show, but as part of that, they were breaking up the games division, and some of it was staying with HBO, and some of it was going to Discovery. So it's not clear where NetherRealms will end up.
I think the thing that people give a shit about is who gets custody of Batman.
Yes.
That's one.
Well, and that's my point, is if NetherRealms doesn't go to whoever owns Batman, then it makes Injustice a bit of a pain in the ass from a licensing perspective. So
yeah. Well, maybe it'll be like Marvel and Sony, where like they just get Batman, and then the whole rest of the Justice League stays with the other people, and then they can just stare at each other for years.
Well, let's hope not. We have some Xbox Cloud news. That's pretty big deal. Hunter, do you want to take us through this?
I would, except for my browser literally just froze, so I can't see it. So give us a start.
Okay, sure. Well, so the biggest thing is the Series X, or I'm sorry, I guess maybe the way to say this is xCloud, which you get when you have a subscription to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. xCloud was running on Xbox One S consoles, S as in Sam. They have now been upgraded. The cloud is now running on Series X consoles, the brand new top-of-the-line Xbox. So you're getting the best, experience Xbox has to offer when you're playing on the cloud, which is pretty cool. They also released a iOS compatible web app that works on PC as well, so you can play through a browser.
And I've tried it, and it's actually pretty legit. So
yeah, well, and then they announced a couple of interesting developments because they finally have an iOS client. There's two different solutions for Xbox friendly phone controller add-ons that kind of clip on to either side of the phone. One from a company called Backbone, and another from Razer. I ordered the Backbone One iPhone controller kit before I realized Razer was making one. But it's $100 and it comes with 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate, which is $45 retail. So I was kind of like, well, let me give it a try.
It's kind of like a
extra
functional Stadia. You get a controller and the
yeah, and the subscription. So, and we have an extra iPhone, one of my wife's old one, kind of sitting around that's activated. So I thought that would be a good sort of test bed for this. And the cool thing is that phone has data on it, so you could play, like the kids could play in the car theoretically. I don't know how good the connection would be, but I kind of wanted to play around with that. So yeah, that looked really interesting. And then the last bit of hardware news from Xbox was OtherBox, the people who make the super bulky cases for your phone. Apparently they also do batteries, and so they made a swappable battery charging stand for the Xbox controllers, so you can always have a fresh battery ready to go when you want to play a game. So a ton of just neat news there if you are in the Xbox ecosystem.
Yeah, and it's cool that they're coming out with this stuff. I actually keep a clip and an Xbox One X controller in my bag all the time, my backpack, and for my phone and stuff like that. It comes in real handy. I use it around the house, or if I'm out and about with a good connection, and I get pretty good use out of it.
I haven't left the house in a year and a half, basically, at this point.
Yeah.
So I have no use case for it, but
well, I mean, like if I'm like hanging out with the wife, and and we're like kind of like passively like watching something together, like I'll sit in my recliner and I can play something, or
that makes sense.
Like when she puts a chick flick on, you're like, I'll be in my controller, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just sometimes for I'm sure you guys know, and for those out there, sometimes like all you really need is just be in the same room as the other person. Like they just you don't really need to be saying anything. They just want you around. And so just throw on some headphones, plop on my phone, and play a game.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, on a completely different note, Madden NFL 22 was revealed recently, and this came with the news that the PC version was based on the previous generation console codebase, not the next gen console version. Which I guess I mean, I don't really give a crap about Madden NFL 22 personally. I don't play sports games. That's my one genre I'm have zero interest in. But I was fascinated by this idea that if you pay the same price for the game on PC, but you're getting a worse experience because it's equivalent to a 10-year-old game console. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you like?
This is weird. I don't know. Yeah.
It boggled my mind that they would, I mean, I guess they at least are upfront about it. Like they're being, forthright with that information. But I really the only thing I could think of is that in order to have a PC that could play the next gen console version, you would need a very high end PC, and they don't want to do the work to optimize that next gen version all the way down to, much older computers. But I don't know anybody who plays Madden NFL on the PC to begin with, so maybe I'm not the right person.
That really is a weird take, honestly, because I don't know a lot of people that do that either. I mean, like,
I didn't even realize it had a PC version until I read this article, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I think this is like the first time they've done a PC version in decades, right? Because I saw it on Game Pass and I was like, wait, what?
Cool. I mean, that's cool in the sense that, like, a lot of people play with controllers on their PC too. So, I mean, like, on one hand, it just gives more places to play it, I guess. But
yeah.
It just, it's always been like a couch game in my opinion. So, anyway.
Yeah, it was very strange to me. So I wanted to kind of bring it up. Another kind of strange bit of news. There was a Myst VR edition that came out a few months back.
Got it.
Did pretty well on VR. and it's a nice way to explore the Mist Island if you want to go back and do that in VR.
It's actually pretty cool. I read, because I'm as much of a Mist fan as I was. I've got like every version and copy, and so like getting this to give me a brand new experience in that world, and it was pretty cool. I'd love to see them do a Riven version of this, like, because that's I've played all the Myst games, and I even played like the online stuff. I even have like but like the Riven I would love to see them make a VR experience for Riven. I think that would blow a lot of people's minds.
So is that like Knights of the Old Republic? You find out you're Riven the whole time.
Wow.
Revan, but okay.
Revan, yeah, spoilers.
Yeah. So what's different between Riven and Myst? Explain. Is one like 3D and the other's static pictures?
I'll briefly explain, but the way that they expanded the Myst game. So Myst takes place on an island, and there's a couple of different locations that you can kind of like link to, but they're all very small locations. As where Riven was a pretty large world that you could go and explore, and there was a lot of really interesting mysterious things going on in the world as you were there. It also had a lot of FMV stuff going on, but green screened into the game. They used a lot of real world textures for their texture mapping, so it almost had a tangible kind of feel to it as you were playing it. And the puzzles and the mystery behind a lot of things really kind of kept people going, and it was pretty expansive too. So there's a lot of mechanical things. So there's like these things that you can like ride to get from island to island that are kind of like roller coasters, and there's also one that like kind of goes underwater. But the way the world works, like heat has an effect on water that actually repulses the water, and so you actually go through this tunnel under the water, but you're literally being separated almost by nothing, except for like these heat pipes that like keep the water at bay. So it's just so like the idea of possibly exploring something like that in VR, that world that they made there is probably one of the best ones they've done, and it would be an experience for sure. Anyway, moving on. That's the quickest I could make that.
Yeah, but if I skip it, it'll be Myst.
God, I want to reach through this microphone and just murder you.
Okay, so the point of this story specifically, though, was that there was this VR remake of Myst, and they're actually backporting it to PC and Mac, no headset required, which is kind of interesting. So it's neat to see that happen. A little interesting little side note: Microsoft had an extended Cyberpunk 2077 refund policy that ends in early July, which basically now. So if you were hoping to refund Cyberpunk, now is your chance.
Let's come back to this next one. Let's come back to this. Yeah.
Okay. Halo Infinite team feels good about a holiday release, supposedly. So it looks like the team's on track, given that
which holiday? This one?
This year.
Well,
this year.
Christmas is what they're saying. Given that's a year after they originally planned, I think that seems fair. The last round of preview videos and stuff they did looked much, much better than the previous shots. So, fingers crossed. Just a random note, Xbox wants to bring back Killer Instinct, so they are looking to keep going with that fighting franchise.
Yeah, and so I'm not so sure. Like that's one that like I kind of a Killer Instinct, take it or leave it. I enjoyed it, but like, if they make a new one, it's kind of like
I don't have a strong nostalgia for it myself. The Windows 10 and Xbox release was good, but it wasn't my favorite fighting game, that's for sure.
I almost feel like there's a glut of fighting games at this point.
There are a lot.
Yeah.
Guilty Gear Strive just came out like 2 weeks ago, so we've had quite a glut of them. What were you gonna say, Hunter?
I was gonna say, so I was gonna go the one that we made. So Windows 11, They've announced some PC gaming features that are quite interesting with the Xbox Game Pass kind of baked it right on into it. They're going to do some auto HDR for people that have the hardware that support it. And they're also doing the direct storage access technology. They're bringing that to Windows 11 as well, which will make loading games much faster. It'll bypass the CPU from what I understand, so it'll help take a lot of or it'll bypass something to just get direct to the storage for loading and playing things. So
it's an optimized pipeline, so it's got a lot of pieces, but the biggest thing is it uses it uses the GPU to decompress the textures rather than the CPUs. So that way you can just load the compressed textures right into the graphics card and it handles it from there. You don't have to go through storage to CPU to GPU. So yeah, it's a big improvement. That's how the next gen consoles are getting such great loading times, is the direct store. Well, Sony has their own version. It's not direct storage, but it's a similar concept. Yeah, I mean, Windows 11, the biggest downside right now is it's not super clear which CPUs you will be able to use with it or not use, as the case may be. So we'll have to see.
And the TPM thing is really confusing people.
Yeah, whether or not a TPM is actually required, a hardware TPM, I don't know. We'll see. Microsoft could have done a better job communicating all that for sure.
All right, well, this last Xbox PC story is amazing. Take it away, Mel.
Well, I'm laughing because, like, Hideo Kojima is one of the more eccentric, I would say, game developers. Jim, you were a big fan of Death Stranding.
Yeah, don't miss out on his 5-hour review.
Yes.
I had a moment.
Hideo Kojima is in talks, allegedly, to bring his next game exclusively to the Xbox PC ecosystem. And, that happens, right? Game developers, especially because he's left Konami, he needs money. He's got to pay, his team, and he's got to pay for development. And if Microsoft's willing to help him do that, then, and market the crap out of his game, I'm sure. So it can be a win-win for developers to do these exclusives. So what I find so just dumb is there is a petition going from PlayStation users demanding that this game be canceled.
So
or at
dumb.
least this Xbox exclusivity. Well, the idea that a petition matters, at all in the first place is dumb. Yeah. They don't have to listen. They could get 1 million. They could get 1 billion signatures on this petition, and it makes no difference. But it just, I don't know. It's just like so asinine that you're so caught up in your identity as a PlayStation owner that you can't accept that this developer's next game is not going to be available on your system. Like, it's not like that's the only game that you can't play on PlayStation.
Yeah, if I was Microsoft, I would buy Konami just to shut them down, and then claim victory, remove the great evil from the world, but then hand the Metal Gear IP back to Kojima and just be like, it's all you now.
I was gonna say also, at what point does Microsoft just buy Nintendo and just end it?
Yeah, that would be interesting. All right, so we got a little bit of retro news, just a couple of fun stories that I wanted to mention. The 1990s full motion video game based on the coveted American Hero IP, if anyone remembers the American Hero TV show, was found, and they're bringing it back. They're gonna pull all of the assets together and do what they can with to make a release out of it. We also are getting a re-release of the 3DO game Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, which is considered one of the worst FMV games. Limited Run Games is doing a re-release of that for some reason. I guess it's like you want to own the worst games ever made collection. Get the copy of ET for Atari 2600 you dug out of the landfill and put it on the shelf next to Plumbers Don't Wear Ties.
Yeah.
How
did you know I did that?
yeah, exactly. And then last but not least, there wasn't an actual like news article attached to this, but it's something I've been following pretty closely. We discussed a couple weeks ago that the Mr. Core for the Game Boy Advance got 2-player split screens, so you could actually play with a friend on the same TV. That was actually updated so you could output to 2 different TVs even. And the developer who did that followed up with a 2-player Game Boy Core, so now you can Pokemon yourself. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I missed some words. You can Pokemon trade with yourself because you can play 2 copies of Pokemon.
Oh, stop.
Together. Anyway,
so
yeah.
Let's skip this next section and come back to it. In Switch news, Nintendo is fumbling the Metroid Dread hype. I find this article quite interesting because it definitely goes into, like, you know, if you want to play stuff like Metroid Fusion, you know, you don't have many official options to do so. This, I think we're gonna expand on some of this conversation in our topic show, which will be out next week, where we're gonna discuss things of this nature. But, you know, Nintendo, both Nintendo and Sony, I think, are doing just terrible jobs in 2 completely different ways. You know, Nintendo, I think, just in general, is fumbling a lot of how people can play and do things with their games in general. It just it frustrates me to no end. You guys have any thoughts on that?
This is one of those things where it's such an obvious natural time to re-release these games, put them on some sort of virtual console or something. I'm baffled why they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And then it seems like Nintendo only knows how to like remaster their old IPs for Smash characters.
But even then, they're like having trouble with some of their stuff. Like, I mean, that's kind of what this article is talking about. It's just like it's not good either way you look at it. But anyway,
it's disappointing for sure. There's been actually a fair bit of disappointment with the new Disgaea 6 that just released. In Japan, it is a PS4 and Switch release, but the English edition that came out in the West is only available on Switch. And the problem is it's now, unlike past games, which were 2D sprites, this is a 3D rendered game, and the performance on Switch is not great. And it's frustrating because you don't have the option to get it on another platform. NISA, Nipponichi Software America, has been pretty good about releasing a lot of the Disgaea series on Steam. You can get 1, 2, 4, and 5 on Steam today, notably missing our D2 and 3. The numbering's just as goofy as anything else. But so there's at least some hope this will come to PC eventually. I am just disappointed. I am playing this right now, and it is fun and it is playable. I think the people who are claiming, you know, it's unplayable that's a little over the top, but it definitely has some slowdown issues, and I'm playing in the balanced graphics mode as opposed to, you know, the pretty mode or the performance mode. Performance mode does look like garbage. So, any rate,
So with speaking of Sony, with PlayStation, Sony is insisting that it really does like crossplay now. Honestly, it really does. I mean,
no. We don't hate you. We really like you.
I mean, I don't know. Like Sony, I used to really respect them as a platform. I'm really having a hard time right now these days with a lot of stuff. But I mean, it probably speaks volumes too because Sony has acquired PC port specialist, was it Nixus Software? And I mean, they've been working on slowly putting a lot of things on the PC. I'm gonna make a prediction. It might be a bad take, but I'm gonna make this. This is Hunter's hot take for OtherWorldsGG. PlayStation will become the next Sega.
Ooh, no hardware, only software, huh?
I think that's the only options that they're going to have to deal with going forward because they have a plethora of great stuff behind them like Sega did. But I just think from a hardware standpoint, they're going to have a hard time keeping up. Because I think with the saturation of the market of and we'll talk about this again in our next show, but with Xbox and Microsoft trying to put Xbox literally on everything, on TVs, get TV dongles, they're on your phone, they're in your browser, they're on the console, they're in they're positioning themselves to be everywhere to present their games. And I just feel like at some point Sony's going to have to position themselves to do almost the exact same thing. Make PS Now and PlayStation Plus a unified platform. I don't know. I don't know how soon this is going to happen. I don't know when this will happen. I'm just predicting that PlayStation's going to be the next Sega. I think that's the only move that's going to save them. Because they're investing way too much in their hardware, and you can't even buy one. You know, just like the Xbox Series X. I mean, but, you know, we have heard, other than games being announced from these developers that are putting them on multi-platforms that also happen to be on Sony, you know, Square Enix is no longer exclusive to PlayStation. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
You know, there's been little to no news from Sony specifically about the PlayStation. So, anyway. Sorry.
One of the things that you said a few minutes ago that was really interesting to me, you were talking about Microsoft's strategy of putting Xbox everywhere, right? Getting it on TVs and on your phone and everything else. The crazy thing to me is Sony did that 5 or 6 years ago with PlayStation Now. It was on Sony TVs. It was available on your phone. It was available on the Mac. But it was, at the time, PS Now was a PlayStation 3 platform, not a PlayStation 4 platform for streaming. And so they ended up canceling all of those other versions and basically saying it's on Windows and it's on PS4.
The problem was, though, is they were only putting it on their TVs, right? They were only putting it in their locked-in ecosystem.
Fair. I mean, you know, people don't buy new TVs super often, but you know, they had the PlayStation TV, which was the Vita without a screen, that was $80, and that would do PS Now, and they canceled all of those.
Right, but they canceled because, you know, until you told me about it, I honestly had never heard about it.
I know. Well, and that's my point. Is Sony botched it. And I think they could have been more successful. I think the difference is Microsoft is doing a good job of letting people know this thing exists, that you can play these games. And I think there's some unfortunate naming choices that Microsoft has made that are not helping, but they've been able to overcome it by standing up and saying loud and proud, here is what we are doing. xCloud, play your games anywhere, play your library, play the games we've authorized, you know, we've got on Game Pass. Like, you can play games, a lot of Xbox games, from anywhere, and here's how you do it. And I think that is reaching people. I have hope that you know, they will be successful. Because I do think, you know, more games, more places is always a good thing.
Yep. Well, continuing on. With some miscellaneous news items down here. A third of the games that were shown for this E3 cycle of 2021 were non-violent, which was a big increase over 2019, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, we don't, and I think that's an unfortunate thing that happens with gaming, is that it gets labeled as like this violent thing for young folks. But there are a lot of non-violent stuff out there, and it's nice to see more and more being showcased as more variety of your game styles. So that's pretty cool. Another one here about Bungie. They tell their Destiny data miners to respect the fun and stop spoiling things, which I can agree with. I think, but at the same time too, spoilers are going to spoil, right? So at some point, people are just going to have to stop looking for it. But if it's so prevalent, maybe there's something that Bungie should be doing to help curtail that on their own. I don't know.
And maybe stop putting data in your game before it's ready.
Yeah, there's that.
Just a crazy thought. I don't know.
Yeah. Facebook Gaming's cloud service has a 1.5 million monthly players. I find that interesting. I've tried to avoid the Facebook gaming scene as much as possible, other than, of course, my Oculus Quest. But I mean, good for Facebook.
Yeah, this is more their mobile stuff. Like I had to look this up because I'm like, what the hell is this? It's Facebook Gaming's doing games for mobile devices in the cloud, which is a weird set of words that go together apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little strange, but it's apparently it's resonating with some people who are all in on Facebook, I guess.
So, also in more news about Game Pass, Square Enix says that putting Outriders in Xbox Game Pass has worked in its favor. I've been seeing a lot of articles about this where developers are actually shocked to see that they generate more sales through Game Pass than people would actually think. You're paying for a subscription service, but you also get discounts on these games, so it's kind of like a win-win for a lot of folks all the way around. I mean, they've shown stats where people are actually selling more games on their platform than originally thought. So there's that.
Well, it's kind of like the humble bundle model. It's like, well, you subscribe for the package of free stuff, but then we also give you like a discount in the store. So if you're going to buy something and you get a 10% discount versus just buying it over on Steam, you might as well buy it from us, right?
Yep.
We'll cover the tax for you at least.
In VR specific news, there's a 7 Max VR game from ex LucasArts devs that is going to be out next month. So keep your eyes out for that. Chess Club brings online chess to the Oculus Quest July 1st. So if you want to play some VR Chess Club, that'll be a good time.
Oh, is it going to have that hot girl in it?
I don't know.
We can fingers crossed.
Tetris Effect multiplayer mode is coming to all platforms with a crossplay and new features, which is pretty cool. I've played some Tetris Effect with Mellified. We had a pretty good time with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested because this is more a demonstration of Ubisoft making a big investment in multi-platform multiplayer, and being able to tie, even VR into that was kind of interesting. But it bodes well for the future if we could play all Ubisoft games on any platform with all of our friends.
Yep.
Yeah, then you find out at the end of Tetris Effect 3 that none of your decisions in the other games mattered.
Oh my god. Nice. Racket NX update brings new level editor, which is now live on the Quest and PC VR, so that's cool for those who are into the Racket NX. Do you play that at all, Mellified?
I have. It's table tennis. I mean, but they've got some interesting levels and stuff with it.
Is that like golf with your friends or whatever? Or
I'm trying to think of how to explain it. Imagine you're in the middle of a sphere and you have to use a racket, tennis racket, ping pong paddle, whatever you want to call it. I guess they're thinking racquetball, so Racket NX is the name. But it's like Breakout, but you have to hit all of the different things around you in a 3D space.
You know what they need to do is they need to remake Hyperblade as a VR experience. I'd play that. You remember that old Activision game? It was like futuristic, like hockey / like
vaguely.
Yeah, it was hockey with dismemberment in a tube.
Yeah, but basically, Racket NX. The cool part is you can break. It's like Breakout, so you can move around inside the level and try to hit the different tiles that you need to get rid of. So that's why the level editors is an interesting twist on it.
Reboot of Cyberball.
Also in VR news, Sniper Elite VR gets new gameplay trailer ahead of its July 8th release. So if you're into the Sniper Elite stuff, there's the VR version that's coming out, so check that out. And then we wanted to get Jim's take on this one. So Valheim VR mod now includes motion control support. Jim?
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's inevitable, right? Because it's a what is it in Unity? I think they made the thing. So it's really easy to just like modularly plug in workshop stuff into that thing, and somebody just made a VR dingus. Yeah, cool. I mean, while they're still working on it, for the ability for the fans to just integrate stuff like that really easy is pretty neat. They did, in other Valheim news, they put out a patch the other day. I'm sure they've probably rolled it back by now, because they decided like the monsters weren't aggressive enough against player structures. They turned it up to like 15. So it'd be like all the monsters in the world just immediately like make a mad rush for your castle and want to tear it down. So you could distract like all the trolls in the forest by building a wall, and then just sit there and hunt trolls as they ran up to the wall. They would completely ignore you. Moats were worthless because the pathing, they would find their way. Like, you have to have a bridge that gets over there. They'd figure it out. And I can only imagine in the plains where the monsters are already just super deadly. I mean, they have like ninja one-hit mosquitoes out there that will just kill you and you never see them coming. I can't even imagine turning up the monster aggression out in the plains. Like, how does that even work? So I'm sure that they've rolled that back.
And then to kind of round out our day, we're going to talk about some tech news just real quick. There's a couple items here. AMD will officially end driver support for the Radeon 7200, 300, and Fury series GPUs. And
we're getting a little bit of shade for that, which I thought was interesting. People were saying, "Oh, it's so hard to get graphics cards." Those are really old graphics cards, though. I mean, the 300 series is 7 years old at this point, 8 years old at this point. So you're talking, and the other ones are older than that. So those are aged cards. It's probably time to upgrade.
Also with AMD news, AMD is giving gamers everywhere a performance boost with Fidelity FX Super Resolution.
Yeah, this is their AMD's answer to DLSS 2.0 on the NVIDIA side. The reviews of the AMD technology, Fidelity FX, have been decidedly mixed. Some people say, "Hey, it's basically a free upgrade on your graphics, like one step." So going from, if you render the game in 1080p, it looks like the 1440p, or if you render in 1440p, it looks like the 4K version, which is not a bad thing. The cool part about it is the Dota 2 developers just added it and said it took about a day to implement. And unlike NVIDIA's technology, the AMD tech can run on any graphics card. So this is something that I think AMD has done well with their answer to G-Sync. AMD came out with something called FreeSync, which was ultimately added to the HDMI spec. So any TV could do, FreeSync. And in this case with Fidelity FX, AMD's done the same thing. Hey, here's an open solution that any game can use, and it works on NVIDIA or AMD. Or Intel, because Intel still got graphics cards, don't forget. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm glad that, making my games look a little better, even if it's not a huge improvement, if it's a little bit better for free, sounds great to me.
Yep. That's pretty cool. And then last but not least here, starting next month, Nexus Mods will no longer let modders delete their mod files. Now, this sounds like a weird thing, and even some people on the modding platform agree that it's kind of a terrible thing to do. However, the reason for them doing this is because of the thing they call collections, where people can put together a collection of mods. Like, so let's take a classic example like Skyrim. For, you know, if you want to
wait, hang on, Table, you're telling me that Skyrim has mods?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow,
what a surprise.
Mind blown. No, I know.
How many mods at once?
Right, but so this is the point. So this is the point, right? So, like, let's say people put together a whole collection of, like, here's my WOD list of mods that I use, and they have to be installed in this order with this setting. So, like, people can make those lists and put them in that order, and people can download that list and have it auto install these things for them in that order. But you see, if a mod gets deleted from a thing, or if some modder decides they don't like, you know, they want an updated version, so they put their updated version, but then they delete their previous version or whatever it is, it can break these lists, or it can break how these things function for people. So instead of deleting the mods, what they do is they go into like an archive or hidden state. So that way, you know. But it's a little controversial. I'd like to see maybe some kind of maybe a different method for it. Maybe kind of like the modder wants to delete this, so it gives people time before they delete it to say, hey, here's a warning, this mod's been requested for deletion. You know, and it puts kind of like an alert out there to update your list, or else, you know, your lists are going to be broken or something. I don't know. I think modders, you know, if you upload your own files to this thing, I think people should have a right to have them removed if they don't want them there.
The flip side of that is, you know, you released it, right? You put it out in the world. At least now you know that that's a permanent decision.
Yeah.
So,
well, there you go. That has been the news for this episode. Be sure to check us out on our Discord at discord.OtherWorldsGG. We're still running our giveaway over there. Tell all your friends and bring us over there. We're just a little over halfway on our way to that. And we also have that Battlefield 4 server, so come on and hang out and play with us. We got it going.
Yeah, and if you get on the Battlefield 4 server and there's nobody or not very many people on there, post a message up in the Discord, and I guarantee you, if you get 4 people on the server so the game actually starts,
it'll fill up quick.
It fills up quick, yeah, absolutely. So it's just kind of getting over that hump of the initial 4 folks, then everything will kind of take care of itself.
Right on. Well, this has been episode number 26.
Yeehaw.